This was a massive moment. Like I could feel it. I was excited, I was nervous. And I knew that this call, when I opened up my phone and punched in his number and hit call, I knew this was the start of a new chapter in my life. I'm gonna tell you a little bit of a story about myself. You're gonna learn more about your boy Evan today. So I'm titling this Earn While You Learn. So if we go back in time, I'm recording this here November of 2022, but if we zoom back to 2019, I was your average underpaid employee. At least I felt underpaid. And now today I run a six-figure one-person business. So how do I do that? I think there's some lessons in this story. So here's the one thing that I did different to go from where I was to where I am today. So right before COVID, 2019, I worked in the creative team for a church, and I was essentially the head of the music department, played all the church services on the weekend, did some of the singing, did some of the guitar playing, some of the bass playing. I was there all the time, building up the sets that we used on the weekends, scheduling the band, all of that good stuff. You know, a lot of times I showed up and I gave my absolute best. And then other days I would just naturally coast until 5 p.m. On other days, that's kind of how it was, just up and down, typical employee, right? And my salary at the time was $36,000, which I aggressively negotiated over time up to about $39,000. And that was like the hard stop. You're not getting paid anymore. And I knew that that was not going to satisfy what I wanted to be able to achieve or earn in the future. And I had other dreams and ambitions. I just hadn't kind of pieced it all together yet. And understand too, like at the time of this recording, I still live here, but that's in Sarasota, Florida. And so the cost of living is pretty high compared to a lot of different markets in the US or just around the globe. And so I was in Florida with a mortgage, a wife, a toddler, and another baby on the way. And I was not even making $40,000. So obviously money was incredibly tight, and truthfully, I was scared to death. I knew that staying put in this job was only gonna delay the inevitable future success that I felt destined to achieve. And I didn't exactly know what that success was gonna come from, but I knew that the current job was affording me just enough for food, shelter, and just to get by while I figure out what that next chapter of my life was gonna be. As a side note, we ran a tight budget and we were still pulling from savings every month, which we didn't have a whole lot of. We just had maybe $4,000 or $5,000, maybe not even that in a lot of instances, in our savings account. And so we were in a slow bleeding situation. And so I think that's why I just felt so scared, because I felt so responsible, and I was proud of this family unit that my wife and I were building in our house. I was proud of that, but I knew that my career wasn't set up to support not only my dreams and ambitions, but to also take care of them. I will share with you probably in a different time for sure, why I chose marketing and what kind of landed me here specifically, but that's ultimately what I ended up doing. And so the next question for me was, do I attempt to go to college, or do I attempt to go like the freelancing route, essentially? And so I did both, naturally. So if you weren't stressed out already and weren't busy enough, I went ahead and doubled down, and I signed up for a local community college and taking just very basic level classes. I was already a college dropout from years past. And so, I had this own stigma in my head of like, all right, if you're going back to school, you can't drop out again. You gotta see it through. At least get the 2-year associate's degree, if nothing else. So jumped into that. And then what I did was I got onto the freelancing marketplace called Upwork. I'm sure many of you guys are familiar with that. So I went on there and I just created a profile saying that I was an email marketer. I dabbled a little bit in the email marketing for a friend of mine who owned a company at the time. So I did a little bit. So I was like, well, let's just start there. So I picked a number that felt good to me. I said $50 an hour. That sounds great. And so while taking classes online, I had this Upwork profile, and then the career and the family and everything else on it. So it was a lot to pile on top of my current responsibilities. But after several weeks, I got a gig on Upwork. And so I can read this to you. I have it right here. It says, I need to set up an automation on MailChimp that sends out 2 emails to a new onboarded client. And basically saying I need to have MailChimp to determine what email to send depending on the record owner. And I kind of understood what that meant, but it seemed like they accepted, my proposed rate of $50 an hour. So I emailed this guy back, or messaged him back. I accepted the offer, and I'm thinking, I I guess I'm gonna have to figure out how to do this now. But I said, hey, thanks for reaching out. I'd love to help you out with this. It should be fairly straightforward to get you set up on this. Could we schedule a time to discuss your specific needs and the details of how I can help best? What's your availability throughout this week? Let's do a 30-minute call, give or take. If there's anything else you need, let me know. Thanks for the opportunity. And before I realized it, we were setting up a discovery call, or you could call it whatever. It was like a little consultation essentially. And I was nervous as hell. I mean, I didn't know what I was supposed to know in order to actually get the gig, like finally seal the deal and be able to clock hours doing this freelancing thing. I didn't know what questions I was supposed to ask while we were on the call. And I was really nervous about what questions would he ask me that I'm gonna have to just basically BS my way through. Now, I don't want to come across like a liar, but it's one of those things where to get experience, you have to go do something, but you can't get a job if you don't have the experience. So it's just this really challenging conundrum. And so I didn't know what I was really signing up for. So with a notebook folded back over on my tiny little IKEA desk and a pen in my shaking left hand, yes, I'm a lefty. And this was a massive moment. Like I could feel it. I was excited. I was nervous. And I knew that this call, when I opened up my phone and punched in his number and hit call, I knew this was the start of a new chapter in my life. And so the man on the other end of the phone was offering me basically, in my eyes, a first-class ticket to a new life. And on the call, he asked me all sorts of questions, like I was scared he would, and pried for intelligent feedback related to his current struggles, of which I didn't really have any, what I felt was intelligent feedback to be able to give. But I knew that if I could just get him to like me and trust me just enough, I could learn how to do the things he needs me to do behind the scenes when no one's looking, which I was fine with. I'll stay up late, I'll figure it out. My friend YouTube and my friend Google, they treat me really well when I use it right. So long story short, I got the gig and it was this one-time project. Like I told you, it was kind of relating to custom fields and automations inside of MailChimp, which is an email marketing software. And so I spent the next week and a half in my off hours when I wasn't working or doing dinner time with the kids and the family. I was learning like crazy, trying to implement what I was finding online and experimenting of how to actually solve this guy's problem so that I could collect a paycheck. And because I was charging hourly, I just want you to know, I wasn't charging him for the time when I was doing my own self-studies, my own research, trying to learn how to do it. I would go and learn it, or think I would learn it, then I would punch the clock and get started, go into MailChimp and start working on it. You know, because I'm trying to be a man of good ethics and just overall be a decent human. And really the moral of the story here is like 10 days later, I was paid $583.34. And I got my first 5-star review. So why not read it to you, huh? He says, Evan was quick to respond to my initial inquiry. We jumped on a call where I explained the job. He clearly understood my unique requirements. In a short time frame, he quickly and efficiently put a solution together that has solved an issue I had been struggling with for years. We will be using Evan in the near future for our new projects and wholeheartedly will recommend him to others. I am officially an email marketing freelancer. It freaking worked. I was over the moon. And, you know, I was just so proud of myself. I learned a lot along the way and I got paid almost $600 in like a week and a half. I mean, coming from the salary that I had, come on, like this was great. And so not long after that, I'll admit I dropped out of college again for the second time. So I'm a 2-time college dropout as of this recording. And that's probably how it's gonna stay because I love what I do now and I have no intention of going back. Cheers to you if you choose to. I'm not gonna dog on it. It's just not my path. So, you know, I learned while I earned. That really is the moral of the story. And we could go into the rest of the story later on and how I got more clients and all of that. But here's the takeaway that I really want you to grasp today. You cannot fully learn until you begin. You cannot begin without making first moves. Your first moves won't be made with complete confidence or competence for that matter. Definitely the case for me. And you cannot gain confidence until you learn your craft. And you cannot fully learn your craft until you begin. See, you don't need to learn before you can earn. That's really what I want to get across. And more today now than ever, you can do both at the same time. It worked for me back in 2019, and it's worked for millions of others that were willing to step outside of their comfort zone and chase after something that mattered to them, something that they deeply believed they should be able to do, and they made it a reality. So my question to you is, what would you love getting paid to do? Now, go out there and begin. Learn and earn at the same time. You can do it all. I hope you have a great week. Until next time, peace.